Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update. And in the news this afternoon, Hampton students rushed to hospital following St. Elizabeth crash. A number of Hampton school students have been rushed to hospital following a crash on the Holland Bamboo Main Road on Monday morning. Principal of Hampton School in St. Elizabeth, Mavel Charlton Brown, confirmed that the injured students have been rushed to the Black River Hospital. I learned of the accident and I know that some of our students have been transported to the Black River Hospital, she said. She said the crash involved a public passenger vehicle. It is one of the route buses which transports students to school. One of the public passenger vehicles, she added. It is not yet clear as to the exact number of students taken to the hospital or the circumstances surrounding the crash. Unconfirmed reports suggested that the crash involved two vehicles. Children's advocate wants a review of sex offenders registry restrictions. Children's advocate Dan Gordon Harrison is urging lawmakers to review sections of the Sexual Offences Act in relation to the monitoring of sexual offenders. This followed the recent rape and murder of 9-year-old Kelsey Farragon. The suspect in the case is a repeated sex offender who was out on bail. There has been a series of debate again concerning whether the sex offenders registry, which requires the monitoring of convicted sex offenders upon their release, is having the desired result. Mrs. Gordon Harrison, speaking with the news, acknowledged that the publication of the names of sex offenders in the registry has been a contentious issue. But in light of the continued brutal attacks against the children and women, Mrs. Gordon Harrison is of the opinion that there should be a re-examination of the statutory provision passed in 2012. She acknowledged her long-held position that those who need to access the registry have very clear pathways through which to do it, such as prospective employers and the school boards seeking to vet a job applicant's record while blocking broad community access as a way to avoid the possibility of vigilante action against the persons who are on the registry.
And so while I understand and I've long been a proponent of the view that those who need to access the registry have very clear pathways through which to do it. For example, if you work in a particular industry or you're an employer, for example, school boards and so on, you can apply to the registry for access. But I've long said that since we have that access, then perhaps given the size of our population and how, we're sometimes prone to vigilante justice, it may be good for it to be closed. But I wonder now if we need to be inviting debate and comments and just different perspectives, including what the statistics have shown us, to reopen the debate. Perhaps the leadership of a particular community, if you see, for example, where a sex offender who is so registered is living in a particular area, that there needs to be some kind of alert, not to John public, but certainly to the leadership of the community. I don't know how we would do that, whether it would be through the Citizens Association or some other responsible, measured authority, so we're not encouraging jungle justice. But, it really is something that I think requires a second look, because we have to be very proactive in how we provide systems of care and also a framework that ensures that the preservation of the innocence of children and certainly the trying to minimize the violence that's perpetrated against them can be really taken in hand in a very serious way.
Person of interest in death of Kelsey Farragon, fatally shot by police in Clarendon. Giovanni Ellis, who was listed as a person of interest for the death of 9-year-old schoolgirl Kelsey Farragon, was this morning fatally shot by the police in Clarendon during an operation to capture him. Details surrounding the incident, which happened in Sandy Bay, are yet to be released by the police. Ellis, alias Cooliman, who was out on bail on a charge of cruelty to a child, was on the run since the discovery of the girl's body last Friday, which has left her community in turmoil. Farragon was found dead inside a barrel at her home in Joe Blaine in Spanish Town, St. Catherine, partially nude and bearing signs of physical abuse. Police believe she was sexually assaulted before being killed. Her 16-year-old brother made the horrific discovery around 8 p.m. while their mother was away from the home. The murder has sparked a national outrage with calls for stronger protection of children and a swifter justice. The government had put out a $2 million reward for his capture. Somber mood at the St. John's Primary as school mourns the death of Kelsey Farragon. A wave of grief swept through St. John's Primary School in St. Catherine today as the students and the teachers gathered for the morning shift to mourn the tragic death of Kelsey Farragon. The body of the 9-year-old girl, who was a student on the afternoon shift at the school, was found stuffed in a barrel at her home on Job Lane in Spanish Town, St. Catherine on Friday night. The sadness was palpable during this morning's devotion. Students and the staff were visibly shaken as they reflected on the loss of one of their own. Senior Superintendent of Police Hopeton Nicholson, commander of the St. Catherine North Police Division, attended the devotion with a team of officers to offer support. Vice Principal of the morning shift, Rosina Slater, stated that although Kelsey was not assigned to the morning shift, some students would have known and interacted with her. As a result, she said, staff are closely monitoring students for any signs of undue stress and will refer them to guidance counselors if necessary. Prayers were led by Sergeant Cyril Francis, a member of the police team, and an evangelical bishop. The Minister of Education is expected to visit the school later today. Senator Lambert Brown wants education tax reviewed. Opposition Senator Lambert Brown has called for a review of the education tax to provide relief for workers earning less than $20,000 a week. The Education Tax Act was passed in 1983 with the proceeds intended to fund the education sector. Senator Brown moved a motion for the review in the Senate on Friday, arguing that with the revenue from this tax ending up in the consolidated fund and being used for other purposes, it is just another tax on the incomes of Jamaicans. Noting that the government recently discontinued the income tax payment requirement, persons earning $32,700 per week or less, he pointed out that minimum wage workers and other low-paid workers are still required to pay the education tax.
In the last budget, the government removed income tax payment for those earning up to $32,700 per week. However, minimum wage workers and low-paid workers have to pay education tax. And as a result of the government increasing the minimum wage in the last budget, the government of Jamaica will receive over $500 million more in taxes through the education tax from minimum wage workers. It is important to put more money back into the low-paid workers' pocket rather than the government getting a windfall of over $500 million in new or more taxes. These workers are not guaranteed pension, no protection through due process, and it has been an abusive system. Workers in tourism have demonstrated and gone on strike against it, and there are many other workers in Jamaica who are burdened by this fixed term contract. England, Australia, South Africa and other countries, including Grenada and the Caribbean, have changed their laws to protect the workers against these colorful device of fixed term contract. I am proposing that Jamaica do no less. We review the laws and protect Jamaican workers.
Guys, thank you for watching. See you this evening at 6 p.m. for another news update.